How's it going, everyone? I have an extremely special guest today, 49ers legend, Vernon Davis, fourth all-time in 49ers franchise history in touchdown catches after Jerry Rice, Terrell Owens, and Gene Washington. Vernon, thank you very much for coming on the show today. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
If you don't know, Vernon is coming out with his memoir later this month on August 20th. It's called Playing Ball. And there's an introduction written by Mike Singletary that's just extremely endearing. I want to ask you some questions about the book and ask you some questions about what you're doing with your life these days. The book starts with the story of a fight that you were in as a kid. Kid was calling you sweetie, and he was bullying you. Can you tell the people that story? How old were you? It's a really moving story.
Yeah, I think around that time I was 11, 12 years old. Yeah, and I was I lived with my grandparents, my six siblings and I, but during the summer we would go spend time with my mom. And I was at her house in Southeast Washington, D.C. And there was a kid in the neighborhood. He would always follow me, and he would pretty much try to bully me every time he saw me. And this was probably a couple times a week. And it's one of those things where you just get tired of what you're tired of. You know what I'm saying? It's just that one of those things. And at some point, you can only you're going to do something about it, And I had to stand up for myself. I got tired of it, and um, I was just trying to protect myself at that time.
What's interesting about the story, the way you tell it in the book, is that you're 11 and he's older than you, and he chases you and you run. You go back to your house, and your initial reaction as a young kid is not to have the fight. You go back to your house, and your stepfather locks the door. And he says, you can't come in. You have to fight the kid. And you wail on him. And you're Vernon Davis. He learned the hard way. But what's interesting is that your first instinct was not to defend yourself. And you seem like you were ingrained at a young age to be a man, you have to defend your honor. And I think maybe that explains a little bit about who you were when you first got into the league.
I guess you
Does
could
that make
say
any
that.
sense?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. You're standing your ground pretty much.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes a lot of things is the way you are as a kid that can follow you throughout your adult adulthood times. So I definitely get what you're saying.
Yeah, because when I covered you, it was a little bit later in your career when Harbaugh was the coach, and um, you always seemed in a good mood. But when you were younger, as you talk about in this book, you got in a lot of fights in practice with teammates, and you would get into it with opponents as well if you felt disrespected. And one of the best scenes in the book is the fight with Larry Allen, who just passed away. Rest in peace. Would you tell the story of the time that you got in a fight with Larry Allen?
Yeah, Larry was. If you sat in his seat, all he had to do is look at you. You were going to get up. He was just one of those guys. He had a special presence. He was one of the strongest men in the entire on earth. Larry was also an amazing human being, great person, great to be around. And I think during that time, well, I remember I was on the football field. He said something to me, but he had been saying something to me for 2 years. I was a sophomore. It was my second year in the NFL at that point. And I said something back. He looked at me and said, "What you say, young punk?" I said, I said, "You shut up." At that moment, I knew something was about to turn. It was something was about to happen. I went to the sideline after the play was over. Larry came walking over, and he was walking over like slow motion. And I just seen him. He came up to me, he said, "What you saying there? What you say to me again?" I just swallowed my spit. I took a swallow and I said, "You you shut up." Next thing I know, he swung at me.
You got to stand on it now.
He swung at me. I ducked, came back up. I tried to hit him, but his elbow is like his forearm just blocked me. He was like Superman. It was crazy. Boom. Then he grabbed my hair, and then next thing you know, the entire team and coaching staff came over to protect me. and just break it up. But I'm glad they broke it up. If they didn't break that up, oh man, I would have been, I don't know, probably would have found me at Stanford University Hospital Center.
That was the Vernon Davis I never met. I mean, you didn't back down from anybody. I mean, you had to know as that was about to go down, it was a bad idea, but you couldn't back down.
No, you couldn't back down. I mean, the neighborhood I come from, you never back down from anything. I was brought up to be tough. It didn't matter how big the person was, how tough they were. It was just where I was from. Like you don't back down from anything, anybody. I mean, at that time, I was probably the only guy that wasn't afraid to stand up to Larry Allen.
Okay, so you're getting in fights in practice with Paris Harrelson, with Larry Allen. Mike Nolan can't really rein you in. You're really young and headstrong. In comes Mike Singletary. And the famous incident happened. And what's great about your book is that you tell it from both perspectives. You start with Mike's perspective, and then you end with your perspective. And what's interesting is it's completely different. I don't know if you've noticed it, but from Mike's perspective, you came in the next day to his office uninvited. And he tried to say, don't come in, and you insisted. And you took the initiative. In your version, he called you in. So could you tell the story again? The next day after you felt he had sort of thrown you under the bus and embarrassed you, how did that meeting go, that private meeting go between you two the next day that made such an impact on you and him?
I feel like, yeah, he at that moment, it was like one of those moments where I feel like I've always had a big heart. My heart has always been big. That's how I was born, and I always want to do the right thing. I needed to go in and see Coach Singletary, whether he called me in or not. I vaguely remember how it went down. I just know I found myself in his office, and I wanted to let him know that I apologized for my behavior, and I'll never do it again. He shared his words with me. I listened, and I think from that day on, I felt myself in a position to be that team guy that they brought me in to be.
Yeah. I thought, look, I'm an English major. Maybe I read too much into it, but I like reading books. This is what I did in college. And what I noticed, it felt like in that moment, he was a bit of a father figure in the sense that he was sort of telling you, forget what Otis told you as a kid. You don't have to fight back on your own. We're a team.
Mhm.
We'll do it together. If someone disrespects you, we're a team. Come back to the huddle. Does that resonate with you at all? I mean, I felt like
Yeah,
that made
it,
such an impact on you that day, and
it
you were
does
different
resonate.
after that.
It's because it's like if it like you're growing up and your leader is someone older than you, right? It's someone you look up to. Like you brought into a certain environment. Most likely, you're going to become that part of that
Mhm.
environment, right? So if I have guys that's telling me to stand up for yourself, be tough, fight back, that's probably going to follow me throughout the rest of my life. So now you have this guy, Coach Singletary, who's telling me, look, you don't have to fight this battle alone. If you get into a fight, you have other people who are here with you and for you. But at the same time, make sure you put these guys first. It's not about you. It's never about you, the individual. It's more about the team. And I had to understand. I had to realize that. And there's also perspective. There's understanding. There's a time and place for everything. Fighting in the middle of a game is not the time and place, right? You have to be wise and understand and know the situation.
Right, but your whole childhood, you were told if you're tough, you got to fight that fight. You can't come back in the house. And then you have the toughest linebacker ever saying, "No, it's not like that. We got a new mentality here. We're a team." So, what's your relationship like with Mike Singletary now?
Yeah, we have a great relationship. I don't talk to him that often, but if I need anything or if I feel like I want to reach out, I'll reach out to him, say hello, check in on him. I talk to his family, and I mean, his family is like my family. I mean, when you playing football and you playing this game, and a lot of times we think we're just there to play football. We think we're just here because we got drafted to help this team win, but you're there to create a bond. You're there to create family. You're there to cultivate relationships that's going to last a lifetime. And that's what I miss about the locker room, those relationships that I was able to create. But the ones that I did, I still have them, right? You spend so much time with those guys, you can only grow to love them. And that's why some of the best teams win championships, because they have that love. They understand that it's more to coming out here, coming in this, walking in this building, going out on that field, practicing, competing to win a championship. It's more about finding love amongst each other. And when you find that love, oh, you start to understand that, hey, we're going to do this. This is going to live with us for the rest of our lives. We're going to be able to talk about this. We're going to be able to share this with our kids. We're going to be able to help people. People are going to come to us because we did something truly special, right? Those are the teams that win football games. Those are teams that win championships. And that's what we had when we were in San Francisco.
Let me ask you this. When you were real young, did I lose you? Are you there? Are you there? Okay. When you were real young, my dad interviewed you. My dad was a sports writer too, Lowell Cohn. He interviewed you about your paintings. I don't know if you remember this. You brought a bunch of your paintings to the practice facility and set them up outside, and Patrick Willis and Frank Gore came out and looked at them as well. And then when I was covering you, like in 2013 or 2014, I interviewed you about a self-portrait you did in college. You showed it to me. It was beautiful. And I don't know if you remember it, but half of your face in the self-portrait is covered in shadows. You can't see half your face. And I remember asking you, why did you make that artistic decision, Vernon? Why did you cover half of your face? And I remember what you said. It was like 10 years ago. You said, I was really angry when I was younger. And I think that's a reflection of my anger. Do you remember that? And
I remember
I
that.
think
Yeah,
you sort of,
I
where did
vividly
that come
remember
from?
that painting. Yeah, I vividly
Yeah.
remember that painting. Yeah, that was my perspective on that painting. Sometimes when I'm painting, I don't really know where I'm going until I'm done. When I
Mm-hmm.
get back and observe the painting, and I kind of say, oh wow, now I understand why I did this. I understand why the colors are like this. It's just it's just one of those things. When you do things from your emotions, it comes out on whatever it is that you're putting it on. And for me, that was the canvas.
Have you ever gone back and thought about where that anger stemmed from? Because I have theories as someone who read your memoir.
Yeah, I think it comes from. I mean, we all take a lot of trauma with us. Trauma lives with us for the rest of our lives, and that's why we have to continue to surround ourselves with positive people and just always working on ourselves. And
Yeah.
my trauma is with my mom, dad, my upbringing, and I think it starts there. That's where the bulk of it comes from, and that's just something that just lives with me, and it's a battle every single day. I'm continuing to work on myself to try to evolve.
I think it's interesting that the bully when you were a kid called you sweetie. Because frankly, of all the football players I've covered, you're one of the sweetest athletes I've ever covered. You have a very sweet, smiling disposition. And I feel like you learned at a young age that to make it, you had to have this other side to you, this violent, aggressive side that would pay off in football. And it exists in you because you're a great football player. But it's like you have these two sides of you that are almost at war with each other. And I think you got much more at peace with that as you got older. Maybe. I don't know. I'm just interpreting from your memoir.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I think you hit it right. You hit it right, right there. I think that makes perfect sense to me.
You go into a lot about your career. One moment you don't talk about in the book is the catch you made against the Saints in the playoffs. Um, I was at that game covering it. I kind of feel like it was your arrival in the NFL. You'd done a lot of great things. You'd had seasons where you'd had 13 touchdown catches, but you won the game, and it was a playoff game. And so, could you go back and take us through that moment, hearing the play in the huddle, sort of understand that they were going to you with the game on the line, how it unfolded, and how you felt after?
Yeah, they trusted me. They trusted that I was going to deliver on that play, and it's nothing like having a team and an organization who can rally behind you and trust that you're going to come through when you need to come through. A lot of that comes from my hard work and just showing over time that I can be consistent. And my number was called, and I was always told to be prepared. I was taught that. I believe that you only get one shot to prove something. And for me, that was my one shot at that level. I mean, you always get multiple chances to do things in life sometimes, but in football, there's really no such thing of like another chance. You have to be right now. You have to be specific, and you have to know exactly. You have to know your intentions, and you have to deliver at all times. Every day I walk into that building, I got to be ready to go. I can't make mistakes. But that day took me back to some of the things that I was wired with. Like, I can't make this mistake. I have to come through for my team. And it was a remarkable moment. It was one of those moments that I'll never forget.
You know, in your book, you have a quote, Mike Singletary telling you that you had hands of stone. Like when you were younger, securing the ball was an issue for you sometimes. And I remember watching you at practice. You would catch the ball constantly. You were on the jugs machine. You had a coach who was throwing you the ball over your shoulder every day. And it all paid off in that moment. I mean, you really caught the ball. And was it Roman? Who did you take out? I mean, you just crushed one of those DB. Was it Roman Harper? I don't
Yeah, it was
remember.
Roman Harper.
Poor Roman. Sorry, Roman.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was a great moment for you. What I thought was interesting is, so you come through in the Saints game, you make the catch, and you're like, you know, this is the franchise that had the catch with Dwight Clark, the catch with Terrell Owens, now the catch with Vernon Davis. You go to the Super Bowl the next year, and you write about this. You're in the red zone, 3 plays to win the Super Bowl. They all go to Crabtree. None of them are complete, and you lose. What did you feel in the moment back then in the huddle, hearing that the play wasn't going to you or Frank? How did that feel in the moment, and then afterward, losing the way you did? How does that sit with you now?
Yeah, everything. If it didn't happen, it wasn't meant to be. So, I mean, I always like to leave things in the past, things that you can only control what you can control. I think we put all the work in. I think we worked extremely hard. I thought I did the best that I could to be prepared for that situation and that game, but it just didn't go in our way. I mean, it's something I don't really ponder on it. I just think about all the good times that we've had, all the good moments, the wins, but also hold on to the losses because they allow me to navigate through my life, and I'm gonna need that throughout the rest of my life.
Well, you talk about the Super Bowl hangover in your book, which I think is instructive for current Niner fans because they just lost the Super Bowl for the 3rd time. And you talk about why it's real and why it affects teams that lose the Super Bowl. So from your experience, can you sort of talk about like what that does to a team and how it's so tough on the locker room, why it's real?
You talking about winning the Super Bowl? You said winning the Super Bowl?
The Super Bowl hangover, just like why losing the Super Bowl is so tough on a locker room and their morale and the team that you've worked so hard to build.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, you know that it's few and far between when you making it there. It's few and far between, right? And if you know that, when you go that far, you put in all this work to lose the biggest game of your life. That's the most. It's horrifying. I mean, it's just it just doesn't make sense. So when you leave that game, it's like you wish you can rewind the hands of time and do something different.
Mm.
That's the feeling. That's just knowing that you can't change the hands of time is the biggest Debbie Downer.
It's hard to turn the page and move forward.
Yeah.
Because that's what you're told as an athlete to do, right? Flush it, next play. It's like, I can't stop looking back. We were there.
Yeah.
You also mentioned that there's some sort of financial aspects too. Like players want to get paid. They take that opportunity to sort of make their stand, and sort of some players start putting themselves above the team. That's the kind of stuff that normal fans would never notice or understand about a team. But what like, are there politics that come into play as well?
Yeah, there's a lot of politics. I I mean, the game is all about what have you done for me lately? That's what it's
Yeah.
about. If a guy isn't performing, then he's going to be out. He's gone. He's done. I mean, you can't do anything for us, so we can go on. And then if we're paying you too much money, we don't feel like we're getting the most out of you. We're going to go somewhere else. That's as a team owner and as a team or as an organization. That's how I'm thinking. Like I got it. You got it. They're constantly moving pieces around and seeing what pieces fit from a cap standpoint. Yeah, we only have so much money. We have a certain amount of funds for a certain amount of players. So what players make sense based on where we're trying to go? Like we don't really need that right now. We got this young guy, Brock Purdy, behind us. So we're gonna get rid of him and bring this guy and bring him in because I think we're paying him less money. We can get 3 years out of him at a high level. We know he's going to perform, and then we'll pay him later. By that time, we'll have more money in the cap to move pieces around. We can pay him and then bring these guys in. There's always pieces moving around and constantly thinking.
And on the other hand, so when a player has a year where they're hurt, they're vulnerable, they could get cut. But coming off a year where they performed and went to the Super Bowl, all of a sudden they have leverage. You want to run it back, right? You want to win the Super Bowl, right? Well, take care of me. I need an extension. I need some guaranteed money. I need satisfaction. I mean, we're seeing that with the Niners right now. It seems like just a natural part of the business.
Yeah, at some point, I mean, they can't. At some point, you gotta. I mean, you're gonna have to get rid of some guys. I mean, some guys you may not want to get rid of, but you look and see what's most important to you. It's no hard feelings. I mean, it is what it is. It's part of the business.
Yeah, and as you describe in your book, it really felt like that Harbaugh era, that team ended a lot quicker than you expected. I mean, you guys were in the NFC Championship 2 years later. You're rebuilding. He's gone. Frank's gone. Patrick's gone. Justin's gone. That really unfolded very quickly in your eyes, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did it seem weird as it was? I mean, you explain it that it seemed like there was an issue going on between Harbaugh and Balky, but as it was going on, did it seem surreal? That last season, did you understand what was going on? Like, what was your perception of it?
Yeah, I just know. I mean, I know the nature of the business. I mean, it doesn't really too much. It doesn't surprise me. I knew that you have a coach who, as far as Harbaugh, right? Is what you're talking about
Yes,
Harbaugh
yes,
mostly.
yes.
You're talking about Harbaugh
Yeah.
mostly. So
Yes.
Harbaugh is a guy. You got to understand your personnel. You got to know who you're dealing with. He's a guy. He loves control. He's a businessman, so he want to be able to have control. He want that. He he want 51%. You know, he want
For
51%. He
sure.
want to be able to call the shots. Harbaugh wanted a certain thing that the organization didn't. You know what I mean? And it
Yeah.
just ran its course, and that's what happens. I mean, like the guy wants something for me. If I would have. I don't know the details of what was going on the upper on that level, right? So I can sit here
Yeah.
and say one thing, but for me, if I have a coach that came in, turned the program around, did exactly what we needed, I'm betting on that guy. I'm riding with this dude.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give him what he wants. If I can, right? If I can't, I'll meet him halfway. Maybe Harbaugh didn't like meeting halfway. Maybe he wanted this. So now he had to get it, but we don't know. We don't know the specifics. So that's what happened there.
I find it so interesting how your career with the Niners went full circle. Like you drafted there, they're rebuilding. They're not good. Singletary comes in and sort of teaches you guys how to be a team. Harbaugh comes in and teaches you guys how to win. And then it all blows up and you guys go back to rebuilding and you're back where you started in your 30s. It's kind of interesting how quickly that happens, right?
Yeah, no, it is. It is. It happens fast, man. That's why you have to enjoy the moment, enjoy the ride, and do as much as you can in that amount of time.
Well, the Niners are back to being a marquee franchise with Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy and Nick Bosa. How much do you watch the 49ers today? Are you keeping up with them?
I try to keep up with them as much as I can. I mean, I'm so busy. I miss about 40 calls a day. Sometimes, I mean, I've put myself in a position where always have something to do. And I've always been like that since I was a kid. So a lot of things, and people were surprised when I tell them, I was like, look, I wasn't able to watch the game today. I just had so much going on. It's a lot, man. You know, so much, but it's good. It's good, and I love it. I love staying busy. I love evolving. But football is my heart and soul, and I'm always love the 49ers. I love watching them play, but I keep up with them as much as I can. I try as much as
I
I can.
noticed on the final page of your book and the acknowledgments, you sign it Vernon, the real 85 Davis. Why do you call yourself the real 85?
The real 85 is um, I remember when I was young and just that having that competitive nature, and you always knew the confidence. It gave me confidence when I called myself the real 85. It meant to me that there was no one better than me. I felt like I was the best. If I was wearing this number and someone else was wearing the number, then I was better than that person. So that was just like a confidence thing for me, and I carried that with me throughout my career. My email is also associated with that, and it's just it's just something I always took with me.
Well, the Niners have another 85 right now, George Kittle. I know you are passionate. You put a whole chapter in here about how tight ends are really underappreciated in terms of like financially and even in the Hall of Fame. What do you think of George as a player, tight end to tight end, 85 to 85?
Yeah, George is talented, man. He's very talented. I mean, he has a unique ability to create separation. He's very savvy. He's patient. Great hands. Great blocking ability. He can do it all. He's the complete tight end in my eyes. Um, and he can be very disruptive when it comes to catching the ball and gaining yards. I love his play. I love what he brings to the team. And he plays with a lot of excitement. I like him a lot. Our games are totally different, when you watch and compare. But I love him.
What do you think is holding the Niners back from winning a Super Bowl? I mean, your Niners, these Niners, they've gone to 3 Super Bowls and come so close. What do you think is going to take for this franchise to get over the hump?
Continue to do what they've been doing, adding pieces, taking pieces away. It's the name of the game. I mean, they're very close. I think if they can have that same attitude, that same approach that they had last year to get back to where they were, they have a shot. They have a shot. It's just, I mean, look, they made it that far for a reason. They were arguably one of the best teams in the NFL. That's why they made it that far. But they lacked the details in that game. That's what happens. It always goes back to the little things. They didn't do the little things to win that game. Maybe the Chiefs were that much better. They were good. They were really good. They had a lot of weapons. But it's all from the heart and the details.
Yeah. Okay. Well, from that team that you were on, Frank Gore's with the 49ers in the front office, Deshaun Golson's a coach, Navarro Bowman's a coach. What are you doing these days? It seems like you have gone far beyond football. What are you up to these days?
For me, I'm creating. I create. I have a lot of material from shows and films and scripts. Just creating, man. I love creating. Creativity is my life. I feel like I can create for the rest of my life. I've always loved and appreciated art. Once I got done playing, I fell in love with it even more. And that's what I'm doing. I have a book, have the book coming out, have some films coming out. I'm getting opportunities in different in different parts, but not different parts, but in different sectors of entertainment. So it's been keeping me busy, um, in business. A lot of business. I have a lot of business endeavors that takes up a lot of my time. So that's pretty much my life right there.
One thing I didn't realize that when I read the book, you took acting classes when you were with the Niners in the off season in San Francisco. What was that like? I mean, just regular people in the class and Vernon Davis, did they understand that they were in class with the 49ers tight end? What was that like?
Yeah, it was when I didn't have any. Yeah, after I think we were in OTAs, And whenever I had time off, I would go down, or I would go to the class after practice,
Mm.
and just learn and just get better. The Shelton Theater of Art, downtown San Francisco. I It was fun. It was fun. A lot of people knew who I was. Yeah, they did. But it was like my introduction into entertainment. We had a play, we had monologues, we had everything. I didn't quite know what I was doing, but I was learning. I was getting better. Now, when I go back and watch, I'd be like, wow, I came a long way. I would have done this differently. I would have done that differently.
What do you like about acting?
I like it because it presents a challenge. Not only does it present a challenge, it's a beautiful thing when you be able to create a character, right? The work that you have to put in to be able to develop something that doesn't really exist. It only exists in your imagination because it's on the script. You can imagine this character, right? But when you take it from off the page and you bring it to life, it's like, wow, I created that. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Every little choice you made, how you dress, how you talk, it's a lot of fun. Did you ever perform when you were in school as a kid, or when was the first thing you ever performed in?
No, no, I never did any kind of performance. Uh, no, I never did any kind of performance. It's something that grabbed my attention, and I wanted to put time into it.
It's just interesting to me. It's like there's so much pressure on you to be tough as a kid, and being tough led to you having extremely successful career in the NFL, which has now allowed you to become creative and sensitive like me. Isn't it fun?
Yeah.
It's it's the American dream.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, Vernon, you look like you're doing great. Thank you so much for giving me a half hour of your time. It's been a pleasure and an honor. I hope you're doing all right.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
You too.